Laughter's the best medicine. That's why I laugh at people with AIDS.
He got fired for that?
I know, it's ridiculous.
Wow. Hello, welcome to WLON 100. This is the movie review for Venom. Ooh.
Yeah, spooky.
We saw Venom.
We did.
Not gonna, I guess necessarily, not a big outline for how we want to do this, but I think we'll do it like I did Solo, and that go through the movie.
Okay.
And then in that sense, just talk about. We'll stop. Oh, spoiler alert! All of my reviews are spoiler heavy, so go see Venom, and then come back and watch the video.
Why would you watch a review if you haven't seen it yet?
Well, some people do.
You looking at us for your opinions? Go to hell.
Some people do spoiler-free reviews.
Oh yeah, do they?
I probably in my life watched one or two, and I was like, I'll just go see the movie before I watch a review.
Right.
Yeah, I like to do spoiler.
Okay.
Straight spoilers. I saw it. I paid my money.
Yeah.
And you should pay your money and go see Venom and then watch this video. And I like to say that because there are going to be times I say bad things about the movie, but at least I'm promoting the movie and doing my part. I saw the movie, I paid, and I might tell somebody at the end of a movie review to not see that. It's not worth it. But more than likely, I'll still start out the video saying, go see this video. Go see this before you watch this.
Go see some bad movies. That's a good time. Some of the best times of my life involve bad movies.
Let's help the economy.
Yeah, Fantastic Four 2, great date. Don't remember anything about the movie. Silver Surfer, I think, showed up.
I mostly don't want to remember. But I'm sure it's better than the new Fantastic Four, which I have not seen yet. Michael Bay, Ninja Turtles. What did you really get?
You got Tyler Perry.
Well, I believe it's still on board.
No, Henry's out.
I don't know.
I
haven't heard it from his mouth. And
in my heart, I believe Henry's gone.
Now, Venom.
You could probably just do like a short roundup episode of what we just did.
Venom. I like the opening scene. I thought they did the spaceship pretty well.
Yeah.
Nice little sequence. You know, we'll touch on this throughout the whole movie. My main issues with this whole movie was tone and pacing.
Okay.
At times, the tone and pacing were amazing. They either didn't have enough time to write the script, or they didn't have enough time to shoot. So at times the pacing and tone was great and perfect, and at times it's like a soap opera. They just shoot their scenes.
Right.
As long as they get the lines out, it doesn't matter the pauses and everything. As long as they hit their marks and got the information out to the audience, that's all we got to do. All we're doing is establishing exposition anyway. Tell instead of showing. Yeah,
we got a bad case to tell in a lot of this movie.
First example, the crash. They're in Malaysia, or they're back in San Francisco, and the rocket's in Malaysia, and they have the crash on screen, and the one woman is saying something in Malaysian or whatever, not whatever, whatever language it would be that she was talking.
Sure.
And we have Mr. Crane, was it?
Yes.
Our antagonist say, what does she say?
Right.
Rather than, I don't think he needed to say anything at all. I think he should have just been watching. Or it felt like he was saying that because they wanted the audience to know what she's saying, as in, they needed to walk us through it. Whether it be because they are trying to establish, they're trying to hit the ground running with, obviously, I was very sad that in Infinity War, I thought maybe, I had heard that somehow Marvel and Sony, the storylines would still be in the same universe, but maybe never actually make a movie with Tom Holland and Tom Hardy together. But maybe there was hints before Infinity War, and this could have just been the hype for Infinity War to get you to go or more excited, that there was going to be a scene showing the symbiote because we see Spider-Man going off into the atmosphere in the trailers. Oh, he has to, or he's going to go into space and maybe he comes back with something. Venom comes out in 5 months, so if it's going to happen, it's going to happen in Infinity War. Nothing happened, so it's like, oh, there's no ties whatsoever. Even on Venom, there's no spider imprint on his chest. Which, so obviously, this is completely Sony's project. With just, I guess whenever they did Civil War and Infinity War, Sony was like, well, you got to give us something, so they let him have Venom. But you can't use Spider-Man at all. So,
but they do get to have some references they got in the Jameson mention.
So,
and his tie, and the fact that he had just a history in New York that they never go into. And that plays into the books.
And that's another thing. I thought they could have just panned over his name tag and it said Jameson rather than it's Jameson. But it wasn't as forced. But
with your whole point of him saying, "What are they saying?" This character is supposed to be established as like like a Tony Stark level genius. Have him translating for himself and just being like, and have him say, "Wait, they're saying there's somebody still alive." Show that he's so smart that he even prepared to learn this little known language.
This is why I just said a little bit ago, this movie I think would have been great. Maybe it's just because the Dark Knight trilogy ruined the rest of movies for me, or that's where I hold a lot of my expectations or the bar. If Christopher Nolan had directed this movie, is like. Because I was thinking that the whole movie, this character is basically Elon Musk meets Iron Man and meets Dopinder from Deadpool. They established he was a young genius, but he was very, he never showed a lot of aggression or emotion. And then random times he would start to lose it, and it's like, well, as smart as he is and whatnot, he can show emotion, but they seem to be making him...
They're inconsistent about it. Which I think if they had played into that he was inconsistent and maybe like give a bit of a bipolar element to him. But with this, he just kind of seems like a megalomaniac jerk who sometimes is a jerk to his employees, other times he's not. I felt like they wanted a little Norman Osborn from him. Especially, with what we get to towards the end of everything. But I like that we started with him as a benevolent character. That he saw, and even throughout the movie, that his goals are relatively benevolent.
Expand on that.
Okay, normally with a character like him, his goal would be to become more powerful. So let's take the Raimi Spider-Man and Norman Osborn, because there's some parallels there. Norman does what he does because he is constantly wanting more power. He feels that he's the best for the company and that he's the best way for the company to move forward. This man is not all about himself. He thinks that what he's doing is going to save mankind. He's a genius with a messiah complex.
And this is where I go, definitely they did a lot of tell, don't show, because they establish these motivations. And maybe... I want to say motivations, and they establish the history of these characters. This guy being a boy genius. They establish that he wants to make human life stronger, and if it comes to we have to leave this planet, able to survive elsewhere. His goal, he has a justified goal. But we never see that's all they tell us is that this is his goal, but they never show him genuinely fulfilling that goal or doing something. It's all just there's too much talking throughout a lot of the sequences.
I think a lot of part of that is back to what you said, the pacing. They took up so much time to just show us Venom being awesome that they didn't really think of time to show us what Venom's fighting, what Venom has to be coming up against here. Because Jenny Slate, while I thought she did a surprisingly good job as that scientist, I'd never seen her in a serious role before. She just kind of became an exposition machine, to where just rambling to Eddie about all this scientific stuff about what they're doing. And it's like, we could have seen this in another way. Or during Eddie's interview with the antagonist, he becomes the exposition machine, saying, you started at 19 developing genetic stuff, and
yeah.
So it's kind of, you're hurting your own cause there when you're just telling us he's smart rather than showing us. And Iron Man 1 did a good job of this, with him being on the cover of magazines and all that, and it's exposition, but not telling us the exposition. You're giving us examples of how he's just genius.
That's a realistic way of why somebody would, for the audience, and then at the same time the people at that party award ceremony,
right,
would, why both of those would fit to why they would show us learning about Tony Stark.
Exactly. And so I think if we'd had a scene with this guy getting a humanitarian award or something, and maybe just on TV and show Eddie watching it and just kind of grumbling that something's off, rather than him having to go into these preachy monologues about that stuff, it would have helped a lot more with the pacing. But from my understanding, from what I've read, this movie has been edited and cut up almost to like not like quite as bad as like a Suicide Squad level, but close to something like that, till Tom Hardy claims that his favorite 40 minutes of the movie is now just gone.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that I'm not surprised.
And we haven't touched on this yet, but I think the biggest problem that this movie had is the rating. Venom should be a rated R movie. He is a killer. Venom doesn't mess around. He's not got a whole with great power comes great responsibility thing. He is a killer. And so he should be ripping heads off and slicing people in half. And we sort of see that, but we don't really see anything. We just get inferences of it. And Venom should be a hard R.
My thoughts originally, and I was going to record this while I was driving on my phone and make my prediction that I think it's going to be enjoyable.
Yeah.
And hopefully they go for a more of a Deadpool 1 scenario. Edgy,
yep. But
there's still, the character is still, we still root for this character, even though he is somewhat of he has redeeming factors. And the movie, and we still have a bad guy that is justified. You know, what did you think of Francis?
You know what?
Good villain, bad villain.
Okay, as far as, if you were to take Francis and throw him into a MCU, I'd say he'd be a bad movie villain, because he's just a bad guy who does bad guy things, and he's selfish and self-motivated, and there's not a redeeming factor that makes him particularly interesting. I don't think Deadpool needed that, though. Deadpool doesn't need Loki, who's this Shakespeareanly tragic figure. Deadpool needed a bad guy for Deadpool to beat up on and move on. And that's what we got, because the movie needed to focus on Deadpool. And if you get your villain too good, that can run, and your hero's not good enough, you can pull away from it, which we saw with Thor 1, where Loki pulled away so much attention from Thor, or even Avengers Age of Ultron, that Ultron was this really cool villain with a great actor who did his voice, kind of pulled away from everything else. So I think with Deadpool, they did the right thing by kind of playing it safe on the villain a little bit. And if anything, Angel Dust was a more compelling character than Ajax or Francis.
I would say I rooted for Deadpool, but I thought, I'll call him Francis because I think Ajax is silly.
It is.
Because I use it as hand soap all the time.
Right.
Or dish soap. But I thought the character and the actor were very charismatic and compelling.
Yeah. The actor was great for it.
And even when I probably knew and might have wanted in the final fight Deadpool to ultimately win, even in those fights, I thought the dialogue and everything was still, I still love Francis. I loved Francis. Now, am I loving him too much, or it's like,
I think a lot of it is going to help a character. You can take a weak character and make him something special with a great performance.
Now, I took away that they made Venom more like Deadpool 2, mixed with so many elements of The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2.
Yes. A lot of The Amazing Spider-Man in this.
But I still loved Venom way more. Well, just in general, I liked Venom. And definitely way more than either one of those 3 movies.
Yes, I agree with that. Well, I liked Amazing Spider-Man 1 quite a bit at the time. There was so much to it where I don't feel like it took the audience seriously. It didn't respect the audience enough. This expects the audience to be more adult, and it treats you like an adult. So,
and that's what I feel, for whatever reason, instead of going straight Deadpool 1 to where they could have made probably the movie Tom Hardy would have really wanted or loved, they made an okay movie that kids could go see.
That's the biggest problem, is they made a safe movie.
You took the word out of my mouth. I didn't want to say it. And for some reason now there's a Deadpool PG-13, Deadpool 2 PG-13 coming out in December. Like, has there ever been a movie that came out and then they re-released it months later with a less rating? Just, I mean, that seems sad to me, but I've seen a lot of as if that's a good thing right now.
Don't take your kids to see Deadpool. That's not a kid thing. Deadpool has never been for the kids. You know, people want to think that just because it's a comic book, it's for kids, and Deadpool has never been that. He's grotesque. He is depraved. He is violent. He is this horny, weird dude, and he was never written for kids.
We now interrupt your Venom movie review to bring you a quick Deadpool 2 movie review.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do Deadpool 2.
Sure.
Because I thought I was going to love it so much.
Right.
So I didn't want to get up here and say Deadpool 2 is great. Just as good, if not better than the first. Because the first, I thought, is a really great movie.
It is.
And I was very disappointed with Deadpool 2. Have you watched it yet? I know I told you about it, but I thought
we talked about. I don't think I haven't seen it yet. No, but I get the gist. It's fine. I've read the synopsis, and I know the books enough to know what's up. And it plays into a pet theory that I've had for a long time.
What's that?
You should never make a sequel to a comedy. In the history of our planet,
I'm trying to think of good comedy sequels.
Ghostbusters 2 was okay, but compared to Ghostbusters 1. It's nothing.
It's the same movie.
Blues Brothers 2000.
Well, you can't.
I'm going to because it strengthens my argument.
Well, I mean, for them, I mean, they should have never even made it without John.
Anchorman 2.
You definitely yield to you on that.
Comedies so rarely have enough story to justify 2 movies. And
well, it depends. Wayne's World. That might be the exception.
Okay. But
Mike Myers, Austin Powers. Mike Myers might be one of the only people who can make a good sequel to a comedy.
He did it with Shrek. Shrek 2 was pretty good.
I'll say at least. I'm not a big Shrek fan. Not that I'll say anything bad about Shrek.
Right, I'm kind of with you on that, but for the sake of this conversation,
I never found the amazing appeal, except for I could see Eddie Murphy as a donkey. Definitely is funny to me.
He was funny as a dragon in Disney. He's funny as a donkey with DreamWorks.
Let's see. Okay, back to the Venom movie review.
Yeah. Well, we can go further into Deadpool, like what didn't work. Like, what did work was Josh Brolin as Cable. That's great casting. Well,
one thing that is weird to me is, number one, the first movie was him being depressed about Vanessa. This whole movie was him being depressed about Vanessa.
Yeah.
The opening scene is her getting killed.
Yep.
And then the opening title sequence is Deadpool 2. Yes, we just killed her.
Yeah.
And I laughed.
That was pretty good.
I was like, yes, this is how you do things, Star Wars, when you come to mocking yourself or mocking your own movie, mocking your own world.
Right.
And then from then on, excuse me, I didn't like Logan.
I've not seen Logan, and I because I'm not a Wolverine fan.
I didn't like Logan because you're finally giving Wolverine a rated R movie, more than likely Hugh Jackman's last time doing it. And the whole movie, my honest titles when I walked out of that was Grumpier Old X-Men, Riding in Cars with Boys, and I had another one. Oh, Grand Wolverino.
That's the one that I think is the closest, is Grand Wolverino, because that's very much just what it is. He's just this grouchy, hate-filled old man who's at the end of everything.
Old Man Logan is Charles Xavier. He is under some kind of mind control, and someone has him under control, and I think they mind control Logan, Wolverine, to go and fight all the X-Men, and he kills them. That's the beginning of Old Man Logan, is that Wolverine has killed all the X-Men. That's the setup.
Which, let's also talk about that. Wolverine couldn't kill all the X-Men.
I'd rather watch that.
Yeah, right. But here's the Cyclops has a nuclear bomb that shoots out of his eyes, basically. You're telling me that a guy with pokey claws is going to kill a man with a nuclear bomb every time he blinks?
They make no mention. They just say there's no more X-Men. Mm-hmm. And so basically, Logan and Professor X are just hiding out. I forget his name. The Finder.
Caliban.
Yeah, Caliban. A great performance by Stephen Merchant.
Very good, yeah.
And they're just hiding out, and that's it. And they can't. I mean, it's very sad. Professor X is locked up in like an old water well or something.
Yeah, because he's
not water tower that's fallen or something.
And I like the element of Professor Xavier's mind, like having dementia, like what happens when the world's most powerful telepath, his mind starts going. That's a good concept, but
and I mean, and well, see, that was kind of like this Venom, where it was just like it was more tell don't show,
right? Yeah,
and I mean, they had some good scenes, but it was him being very wacky, a grumpy-year-old X-Men, like just wacky. And again, you have Patrick Stewart probably on his last role, Sir, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, Sir Patrick.
So, and it was just Wolverine depressed throughout the whole movie, basically, and you had some good action sequences, but nothing great, nothing better than. Anyway, so that's kind of where Deadpool 2 went, and this is kind of where I wouldn't say Venom went down that road. I thought the actual. So we have the rocket crash, the symbiote go into a woman, and she goes into a village, kills some people, and transfers her into an older woman, and then she starts her descent towards Life Industries or corporation. And then we cut on, we meet Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock, in our current political climate, Eddie Brock is a great example of how not to act at your job, at least, if not just in general.
Right.
At first I was like, Eddie Brock is a real, this guy he's interviewing might be the worst kind of worst, but you can't act like that to people. Are they doing this on purpose?
Maybe.
Because, well, no, it's Sony. It almost thinks it would have been a Fox thing. But they're showing a lot of social issues that Star Wars thought that they were showing.
Yeah.
And I thought they're doing it good right here, because they eventually, Eddie Brock, he wakes up with his girlfriend. That was very ham-fisted, I thought. Again, just we gotta show a scene where Eddie has a girlfriend and they talk about something that'll be important. Eddie goes to his job. His boss is telling him, "I have a great assignment for you. You don't have to agree with this man. Just go there, smile, ask him some questions, and we're gonna get paid.
Right.
It's an easy job, and it's gonna be good for you and your career too. It's just what we do in our business."
Yeah, there is one question I have with that, is that Eddie is this investigative dude whose whole thing is like hard-hitting on the streets, just real hard-nosed reporting. As a person who would be his boss, why would you send him to do a fluff piece on someone that, because you know what kind of person Eddie is, that he's clearly got his uses for you?
This is where I feel a lot of the issues came, is that they have no allowed ties to Spider-Man.
Right.
So now they're having to make a Venom movie in the same world as Spider-Man, but in a very different world, to where... how did you feel about... Because Eddie Brock, I believe, is a rival photographer.
Yeah. In the books, Eddie Brock is just a photographer and a rival of Spider-Man's or Peter Parker's, and he fakes photos, and that gets exposed by Peter Parker. It happened, like, for all of his problems, Spider-Man 3 kept to that pretty closely, and he gets exposed, he's thrown out, and nobody in New York will hire him, and he just leaves. And Eddie Brock, for what we see in the movie, and for everything they say, he's not a loser in this movie. He's a guy with very deep convictions. He's annoying, obviously, but he believes in the stuff he's doing. He's trying to do good. That's not the Brock of the. That's not the Eddie Brock of the books. Eddie Brock of the book is like the kind of guy you'd find in a burned out trailer, happy with the fact that he doesn't have any responsibility and has no ambition at all, except for whatever short term thing he can get.
Sounds like a mortal Wolverine.
Yeah, basically. I mean, they're similar in a lot of ways. And yeah, this Eddie Brock in the movie, he's funny at times. He's got charisma. He's got this beautiful girlfriend who's also very motivated and ambitious, which Eddie Brock of the books, that woman would not ever give a second look to the Eddie Brock of the books. This Eddie Brock, though, is a different character. And it's almost like they took elements of Eddie Brock and mixed them with elements of Flash Thompson. Because Flash is Peter's bully in high school who eventually becomes Agent Venom.
Yeah.
And becomes a soldier, and he becomes a bit more motivated to do good in the world. So it's like they kind of mash it together, because eventually Eddie Brock wants to do good, wants Venom's with him for some time, and they get motivated to do justice. But it's like we just kind of chiseled away at this Eddie Brock till we don't have to do so much work to make him a sympathetic loser. And even then, he's not really a loser as much as he's just someone who shoots himself in the foot a lot.
Yes. That's why I was wondering, like, where are you going with this? He better have some redeeming qualities, or if you all really just made a movie about him who didn't get some powers and then we like him because he's one of the more iconic characters there is. But then I was like, before or by the time he got to life to interview Kane.
We gotta get this name.
The antagonist.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think Tom Hardy would play a role of straight.
Yeah.
And then so he loses his job and immediately loses his girlfriend. And I was like, okay, so he is, but now he is having the rug pulled out. So now we're gonna see where he now gets it. Mm-hmm. You can't act like this.
Right.
No matter how right you are, you can't act like that.
And I think he kind of gets it, because he seems certainly more humbled now that he's, the scene where that guy plays the guitar and he just like silently screams was really good about where his life was at that point.
I don't think I totally, I do that a lot.
Yeah. Just a frustrated silent scream of,
thinking I, in real life, might turn it. I wish I could turn into Venom and just like break a wall. But just, yes, I do that. And I don't know who came up with that. If that's just maybe they said, gets mad and he came up with that. Whoever, I definitely connected with that. Yeah. And this is even lost his job, lost his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. So that is even more believable, but he's to the point where, and even though he's ready to go off, he stops,
Yeah.
And he goes across and knocks and says, "Hey, can you please keep it down?" He doesn't get to that rage point and then hit something or break something or go scream at the guy. He stops for a second.
Right.
I don't want to be like this. And then goes and he's nice about it. So that was very redeemable.
The apologizing during the fight, that was pretty good.
Where was it? Oh, so loses his girlfriend, goes to the bar. We have a time jump. So wherever that jump, there's stuff that's been cut out. So I think there was a jump there to where she all of a sudden has a surgeon boyfriend with the key. But I knew most of my what I remember of the animated Spider-Man or the animated series, he did have a girlfriend that there was some issues, especially after he became Venom, but they still had their connection.
They did have a connection.
Still, no matter what, loved her almost to a Superman, Lois Lane, Spider-Man, Mary Jane situation to where...
If I remember correctly, it was actually Betty Brant from the Jameson's secretary.
That was, well... They had a scene in the Spider-Man 3, but I don't remember in the cartoon.
I'm fairly certain the cartoon is Brant still because she was always kind of around and she was friends with she was friends with Peter, and at one point a minor love interest of Peter's, and so that was part of the issue that Eddie had with him. In this, it's just some lawyer who's not a book character at all. Yeah. Okay. Well, this is where I feel the issues were, is maybe they only had so much tie-ins they could use. Maybe. And they only had so much time to actually write this script. I guarantee that's a big part of it.
But we'll get to that in a second. Okay. So this is he's hitting rock bottom. Yeah. And now we do see the actual redeeming factors is that he's friends with the homeless girl. Yep. Which is very strange because we've seen him be nothing but a D-bag up until this point. Nothing. Even though he's been funny at times, he showed nothing of good character up until that point that I can think of.
Well, I think part of his douchiness was that he was a man who believed that he was right about everything, and it just so happened he believed that the rich were all corrupt, and so he felt justified in he hacked his girlfriend's email, which got her in trouble.
Well, that's what I was saying. Like, how did this guy could not have this attitude and just get to where because he was in a pretty good spot in life.
He was, he was basically a Anderson Cooper type, kind of just getting his own show and everything, and well-respected journalist
with a pretty girlfriend who had a big job. And then he goes in and he's friends with the store clerk, and I thought it was good that she got not held up, but
she was being extorted by organized crime for money.
And nothing happened. I thought that was a good scene. Yeah. Because then that made it show that even at that point, Eddie wanted to do something, but he didn't. He wouldn't interfere because he had no place at the time necessarily to just interfere. And maybe interfering might cause something worse to happen. Exactly. So I thought that was a good scene. And then enter Jenny Slate. Jenny or is it Jessica?
It's Jenny Slate.
Jenny, I like her. Yeah. Everything I've seen her, I've always liked her. And again, never seen her in a serious role either. Right. I was actually, when I seen her in the trailer, I was excited.
I didn't realize she was in the trailer. I didn't, the first time I realized it was her was, I think when she came and interrupted the presentation to the kids in those first few scenes. And I thought, is that the woman that does Joe Swanson's wife voice on Family Guy? Because she seemed to be doing an impersonation of that with her voice.
I didn't know that was her.
It's not. That's not at all. That's Jennifer Tilly does that, but their voice sounds exactly the same in this. Yeah. So no, but yeah, it was Slate, and she did a very good job as this doctor. She pulls off being intelligent but meek and afraid at the same time, and she's the one that hunts him down because of the trials with the homeless people.
Now, see, that made sense to me because she genuinely feared, and she knew he was somebody to go to. Yeah, who would understand. And so I knew, in the trailer, Eddie has to get the symbiote somehow.
Right.
So he has to get there somehow. So as soon as they meet in the store, so Eddie's at rock bottom, but we see that Eddie is still, no matter what, he still has good in him.
Right.
He's either going to pick himself up, or Venom's just going to get him, and he's going to be a bad guy who got superpowers for free, and then somehow we root for him, even though he is still a murderer.
Right.
So boom, so she enters right there.
Right.
Oh, so okay, so now this is how he's gonna get to the symbiote. I was thinking, obviously she doesn't have it in her pocket or something.
Right.
So she brings him back, and I was like, the whole time I was thinking, I think it was about this time is when I realized this would have been a great movie in the 90s.
Absolutely.
Because she takes him to this facility, thinking, does she not? She's a PhD. It said it on her card.
Yeah.
Does she not think that they check-in times on her access card, or that they don't have any video cameras, security cameras anywhere at all? She's just gonna walk in with Eddie Brock into this facility.
I don't know why. And I mean, that's what ends up biting her in the back on this. But in the 90s, this would have made sense, because in the 90s, she wouldn't have had a cell phone to be able to send him pictures with, which is what she should have done in this. She has a cell phone. Her just click, click, click throughout the day. Then, hey, Mr. Brock, I have something you might find interesting, and then send that to him.
I almost feel this was a script from the 90s that had been held back. Maybe they bought it whenever they got the rights.
That's the thing is, if you ask me what character in the books is very 90s, it's Spawn and Venom. Venom is one of the most 90s characters you can get, because he's like Spider-Man, but extreme. So it's a 90s character, He had his time back there, and he's always looked cool, but, up till now, Eddie Brock and Venom didn't really justify having their own movie yet, so. But again, that's not to say this is a bad movie. It's a fun time.
Obviously, the homeless girl was going to be there.
Yeah,
because
exactly. We saw.
I thought that was done pretty well.
It was.
Like, I thought it was obvious. And I thought it was obvious that we're going to see her. He's going to see her alive or dead at some point.
Yeah.
Since he's going to be there.
Just good basic foreshadowing right there.
And I thought that was done well. It wasn't too cliche, done too cliche. And he gets, let's see. Well, breaking the glass. I thought that was fine. This was this is a 90s thing. There was 2 chase scenes.
Yeah.
We saw both of them in the trailer. I thought neither one of them was needed.
Not really.
Maybe one more scene of Venom action.
Yeah.
But I would have been fine with at least one chase scene and another scene of Venom action instead of the 2 chase scenes. So this takes us to the chase. Somehow they went there at nighttime. And then in the 10-15 minutes they've been there, and he's got the symbiote. He goes outside. It's dawn.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily. The chasing reminded me of X3.
Yeah. When Wolverine's out in the woods. Yep.
Just because of the woods, but then he just bonded with it.
Yeah.
And he's now just running through trees and glass and climbing stuff, and they're not showing any effects yet. Everybody else who has taken on the symbiote
is basically dying.
Collapses immediately. They might regain, or the only other one is just transferring, and then they're slowly walking. Right. Which that is coming up.
You know what? I'll say this. We actually, when the first transfer happens, it's from Jameson to the EMT. We do see her leg heal immediately.
But she's not running through trees.
That's true. She's not, but she does kick open that door. She kicks out the side of the ambulance. So there's something there as a precedent. At the same time,
that's consistent, sure.
It is, but at the same time, they never explain why Eddie is a perfect match for Venom.
Well, and see, they again, tell don't show. They did put the weight bench and everything in there.
Is that what it is? It's just he's strong?
Well, see, in the animated series, Eddie Brock had a weight bench in his room, and he was in there lifting. Even after he was Venom, he was still in there.
Yeah, Eddie's kind of a meathead.
He had a failed battle with Spider-Man. He came back home, and he was like, benching and like,
time to get yoked.
we're going to get you, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
We are coming for you. What's probably one of the best things about Dawn of Justice? We know Bruce Wayne should not be able to fight Batman,
right?
But at least he puts in some work.
Yeah.
We show montages are cliche, but I thought that Bruce Wayne montage was still pretty good.
Not every cliche is a bad thing, man. And montage is a perfect example of it. That Bruce Wayne, just getting back in shape to be Batman again, is a perfect example of it, because we don't need to see Batman in high detail what he's doing against it. We just need to know, all right, Bruce is working at it, we're good to go.
It would have fit better if they sprinkled it throughout the movie instead of putting it right before. Like, Batman does he ever work? Is this the first time he ever worked out when he decides he's definitely going to go fight Superman? Or, because, I mean, obviously Ben Affleck was pretty shredded for that.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like, that's part of Batman's character.
So it's assumed.
Is that Batman's whole thing is that if you're not seeing him being Batman, and he's not sleeping, and he's not out being Bruce Wayne, he's working out because he has to. Because again,
which I
he's
believe
just
that,
a guy,
and I assume that.
Yeah,
which is fine, but I'm sure that would have helped people in that whole movie's another story. Yeah. But so what does Eddie Brock again? And I didn't like that either. This is where it gets more Deadpool 2-ish, where I'm a loser.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just assuming Eddie Brock, the character, would never say anything like that.
Eddie Brock, the character, thinks he's awesome. He's a meathead, and he's happy because he's got no responsibilities in life. And his biggest problem in his life is, man, he hates Peter Parker. But even in that, there's a part of Eddie where you kind of feel sad for him because he's so stupid. And this guy, I don't get that feeling that like he's stupid. It's just a man who consciously makes bad choices.
Well, lucky he makes bad. He brings it on himself,
right?
And that in where I thought at least we didn't even get it because we went. I thought where he loses his job, loses his girlfriend, then whatever the time jump was to see his girlfriend. Because that's creepy now. This is 2018.
Absolutely.
In the 90s, okay. 2018, you can't just show up at your ex's place. Obviously, we all have phones. He has a phone.
Exactly.
He could have just texted or called and says, okay, if I come by and talk to you. No, okay. I just want to talk. Bye. Have a good life.
Exactly.
Which I didn't mind that phrase. I thought they didn't beat us over the head with that phrase. I thought they did that well. But, so then he sees her with a better guy. And the guy's not only nice to Eddie and likes Eddie, he's still somewhat dismissive of Eddie. Yeah. Because he is a better person than Eddie.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not she got with somebody as good or worse than Eddie. She got with somebody extremely better than Eddie.
Yeah. Eddie's not a blip on this guy's radar at all, except that he liked Eddie's work.
We almost are like, I respect that doctor way more than Eddie.
Yeah. That doctor goes out of his way to be kind to Eddie. And to Eddie's credit, he's not like an aggressive jerk to his girlfriend's new boyfriend. It's just he's kind of beat down at the point and doesn't seem to have much direction for himself.
And so instead of Eddie goes to the bar and has a drink, and then he feels bad, and then he goes to the store and meets Jenny Slate. Yeah. We never see, I was like, Eddie loses his job, loses his girlfriend, and then on top of it sees her with another man instead of him having a look in the mirror moment. Yeah. Or, who do I want to be? Yeah, that's a big part of it. I don't know why all this stuff happened to me. It happened. Maybe it's me. We don't have that moment. We immediately go and he goes and gets the symbiote.
Here's the thing that I also thought while we're watching this. The most effective scenes in that movie was probably when he was walking through that hallway and it felt like a horror movie. Which hallway? Whenever he's walking through there and seeing the test subjects and then he breaks that door up and everything goes red and that woman just jumps through that glass onto him. That was genuinely scary. Yeah. And then then Venom oozes out of her into him. I think if you present this as a horror movie instead of an action movie, it makes a much better story. Because this should be the scariest thing in the world. There's funny moments in the Dark Knight movies.
Yeah, that's
Bruce Wayne falling asleep at that in that CEO's meeting at Wayne Tech. Very funny.
Oh, very.
The stuff with Morgan Freeman just being a sassy dude to Bruce Wayne, funny. So you could have kept funny moments in this, and I thought Eddie was very funny, and Tom Hardy's performance was great. But let the moments be serious, you know, like when Venom is a monster. He eats people, you know. Don't even the moments where Venom's in Eddie's head and they're talking. That's fine. I'm okay with that being funny. Because Venom would take on aspects of Eddie's personality. But Venom needs to be more basically the Predator. Like, there is nothing funny or light about when Venom is in full control. And this movie didn't get that.
Oh, man. So it goes to... Now he's back in his apartment.
Yeah.
The Life people show up. They've got Jenny Slate. They figured it out. And also around this time... Really quickly, Riot, the symbiote Riot that had gone to from Jameson to the EMT to the older lady of the village is at an airport.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, we come up to the next car chase where at the end of it, Eddie finally goes full symbiote, and he swims him across the river.
Yeah.
Why did Riot get on a plane? I just was like, I assumed maybe Riot was just going to walk to the bottom of the ocean,
that would have been really
under
cool.
the ocean all the way to California.
That would have been really cool to see.
Swim, just like he made Venom made Eddie swim across the river. But you know, when did this alien life form learn that we have an airport and airplanes?
I can't explain that.
The
symbiotes, when they latch onto somebody, that symbiote also takes all that person's
Now I can
mind.
buy that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like when Venom was in Eddie, as soon as he latched onto Eddie, that means Venom knows everything about Eddie. Or when he was latched on, well, I don't want to ruin that yet. So when Riot latched onto all these people, he picked up the knowledge of the EMT girl and Jameson and the old lady and the little girl. So Riot had their knowledge, and that's how he knew.
And then again, that's more that is show don't tell.
Yeah, but not shown real clearly.
But exactly, because they're just mindlessly walking.
Right. He's
not ever doing what he does once he gets to his final house.
Yeah.
So
Eddie's just swam across the river after some pretty good action sequences.
Any thoughts on the motorcycle chase?
It wasn't bad. I mean, if they wanted a chase scene, you could have done a lot worse. And I liked whenever whenever Eddie realized something was going bad, he just screams, "Do something!" So Venom grabs the post. But the thing is with that, I liked when Batman did it a little better. Batman's the Batmobile had a sequence in in Dark Knight where it has to make a sharp turn and just shoots out a grappling hook into a wall. So, and it's the same thing that what Venom does there. Venom, it looks cool whenever it happens, and it's all right that his hands don't know why that would matter, because I don't think Eddie's going to go off the throttle in this chase. But again, movies. The jump doesn't make any damn sense. You don't go faster when your tires are off the ground. So I don't know what the point of that was, unless maybe Venom himself thought, I'm going to look cool doing this.
What did you think about Eddie Brock riding a motorcycle? Because I imagine that's never happened.
No, it's fine. Eddie Brock getting around on a motorcycle is pretty true to the character.
Now, like I said in the beginning, they are establishing their own world now.
Yeah.
That they can only use so much with.
Right.
So, it felt like there's supposedly, I don't know, it's at least a running joke, if not true. Tom Cruise put stuff in his contract that he has to run and be on a motorcycle. So
you think maybe that's what's popped in here with Tom Hardy?
Maybe not him. Maybe the studio or somebody thought this was cool. Let's put him on. That's what I'm saying. Instead of having a scene where they come up into Eddie Brock's home and he fights him, and then maybe goes outside and has to fight more, and then runs, and then maybe Venom is shooting and he starts to web sling. But their own little form of it, and Eddie's getting away that way. That's more that you're getting Venom actual Venom action.
Here's what I would say to all that, is that what we see in this movie is Venom can't fully venom out, and we don't see him fully venom out until
he gets across the river.
Eddie okays it, or until Eddie's unconscious.
And that's my next question. Motorcycle, and then now the whole... It comes out and talks to Eddie like that, and it doesn't... Even though it has bonded with Eddie, it still hasn't bonded with it the way it did with other people. Thoughts?
Well, okay. The whole killing people that it bonds with, not a book aspect. Symbiotes are symbiotic to everything. So, I mean, you get cosmic carnage at one point until Carnage latches onto the Silver Surfer. They can latch to anything. In this, I got the feeling that, like Venom said himself, he's a loser where he's from. Now, how a symbiotic blob can be a loser, I don't know, but... So I think maybe...
yeah, that was...
Yeah. It's like, really? What, you got the smallest puddle or something?
Like...
But,
the Island of Misfit Toys.
Yeah. But, okay, so let's just say maybe what the thing that makes Venom a loser in their culture is he's the most tending towards to being empathetic. And it kind of points to that because Venom, as soon as he's in Eddie, he's like, oh, I like her, talking about the girlfriend, and he's sympathetic to what Eddie wants to do, and so he's trying to make things a little easier for Eddie and all of this. This is a time where they could have explained something instead of trying to keep it vague, because why does Venom care? And why would Venom not be interested in latching onto somebody more powerful than this down-to-nothing reporter?
That was concerned me was... So they have the motorcycle chase.
Yeah.
He then swims them across the river.
Yep.
Oh, okay. See, I was assuming that... what is there anything like it? Maybe more like Spawn.
Okay.
Where it would absorb him, and then it'd be like Spawn to where it consumes his body, and then you just also have like, because Venom already is its own conscious being. You got the we thing, and he's talking to himself, but it's not like. I mean, because has it ever ripped off of itself to talk to him like that? Or I figured it would he'd just be walking around like he was having, like Tony Stark walks around and talks with the suit at all times.
What we see towards the end where he's talking, with that scene that you're thinking of at the end where he's just walking, talking, that's how Eddie and the suit mostly communicate. There have been times in the books where, like Spider-Man using the church bells to separate is a famous scene, and then Eddie is able to talk to it more directly, but it's still mostly all in his head. And it becomes more of an addiction for Eddie than anything. But no, Venom's never separated like that and just talk to him, because the Venom symbiote doesn't refer to itself as Venom and doesn't just talk. Venom is the nickname that Eddie has given himself, because the reason he's Venom is because Eddie's problem is that he's this venomous person. The reason Carnage becomes what he was, and that'll be... But Carnage, that's how Cletus Cassidy thinks of himself. Antitoxin, who is one of Venom's sons, thinks of himself as the cure to what Venom and Carnage are. That's why these alien characters would have English names for words as names for themselves makes no sense at all. Because this is before they even bond. So was it that on their comet that they lived on, they had their own language and the equivalent was Venom and Riot was their names? And would they think that, like, somebody being named, like, do they think that Eddie is a stupid name because it's not another word?
Well, the symbiote originally came from Reed Richards on another planet?
No, the Venom symbiote in the books, they are their own species on another planet, on the symbiote world.
Okay.
As we speak, currently, in October of the year 2018, there is a storyline going on called The First Host, where it's revealed that Eddie Brock is not the first host to have the symbiote. It was an alien from another planet who was a warlord, and Venom separated from it because Venom's symbiote, for whatever reason, has a sense of justice to himself. And maybe that's in the movie what they mean by him being a loser, is that he's not just callous and devouring. But separated from the warlord and got to Earth because of Jameson. That's true to the book. Jameson found it on a comet. And so, no, it's never really had much interaction with Reed Richards.
Well,
enough.
My question is that, again, it was on a comet.
Yeah.
But he's the loser from where he's from.
Yeah.
Did they just always live on a comet traveling through space, or were they on a planet and somehow these liquid life forms jumped on a moving comet? How again
in the book they have a planet. It's just called Symbiote World, and it's a whole world of venoms and carnages and riots, just chilling.
I feel like, this movie had a lot of good stuff, especially when we did see Venom. It was cool, but there wasn't enough Venom scenes.
Nope.
And so we didn't get, and I understand it's an intro movie, and they're hoping for a second one.
Yeah.
And maybe that'll be the movie where we get what we want, and it's a better movie. But the issue is making sure the people who didn't like this movie still came out and saw it enough that they will be fine with the second one, because the people who we got some stuff that we liked, and they're teasing us with a better movie.
They are.
Now that it's all about getting the ball rolling. Are we actually going to get that, or did they not give us what we want enough that the people who were on the fence anyway, the movie just isn't going to, it's going to do what Solo did, in a sense, to where
it's going to kill off other things.
Because
this isn't the only movie that's supposed to be in what we'll call the Venomverse. There's one called Black and Silver coming out, which is one of my favorite characters, Black Cat. And I really like her, and Silver Sable, who is another thief that is just friends with and kind of rival with Black Cat, which I don't know what kind of story you have for Felicia Hardy without Spider-Man.
This is a Sony project?
Yeah.
Well, and this has been an issue with the Amazing Spider-Man movies, was did they really want to make those movies, or did they make them to I guess there was some kind of statute that if Sony didn't ever actually do something with the character, Marvel has the right to.
There's a trademark statute where if you don't use the character in something every so often, which is what I believe is what we got with the most recent Fantastic Four, is that it's just a way of making sure we get this, and if we make some money, great, but we just need to make sure we keep these characters so they don't get them. And maybe that's what's happening with Black Cat and Silver Sable and Venom, is they just want to make sure, and they're saying, no, we want to keep them. And I hope that's not the case. I would like to think that if they're going through the trouble of making movies with big-name stars, that they're wanting to do it, but there's a lot in this movie that makes me think maybe you're right, because there was more I liked in this movie than disliked, I think. I'll ultimately say that, but the stuff I disliked was pretty strong dislikes. Like, as much as I said the villain was an interesting character, he wasn't very menacing. And they kept trying to push him off as that, and it's like, not really.
Yeah.
He's just kind of a goofy philanthropist with a messiah complex. So.
And that's the thing, too, is they make the claim that this place is built on bodies.
Yeah.
As a horror movie, show us something.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I know we already have the implication that he's like, and I get a big Iron Man 3 feel from this movie too, because they're just finding bodies to do this thing too, and I felt Ben Kingsley would have been better for this role. Speaking of.
Yeah, well.
and I actually think the actor did a pretty good job as the villain.
He was good, yeah.
But they had some scenes where they wrote where, again, I thought an
older man with some gravel and gravitas to him could have done a better job. And I get they want this young tech, but maybe you're right that they're trying to send some kind of political message through this guy.
This felt like Iron Man 3 but backwards, where you have a Tony Stark-like figure who is trying to save the world of this guy who's just making these experiments with people into superhumans. This movie, you have a Tony Stark-like figure who's making the superhumans, and then some random schmo
ends up with powers to fight him. Yeah, and I don't know, man. It sounds like we're ragging on the movie. It's not. Well, it's a fun movie.
We like the movie,
right? There's a lot wrong with it, though.
We're scared that we might not get the second one that we want.
Yeah.
And this one, we know that this one not only could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
Supposedly, even Tom Hardy has confirmed that.
Yeah, that was a lot better.
And we don't want people. You don't want to. Tom Hardy. You don't want to go against. If Eddie Brock taught us anything,
don't go against your bosses.
Don't be too outspoken.
Maybe though Tom Hardy's kind of over it though. I mean, there's no guarantee that Tom Hardy has to be Eddie in the sequel. If recasting has taught us that too.
But I'm sure Tom Hardy likes money though.
I'm sure he does, but if let's say tomorrow they come out and say, hey, we want to make Mad Max Furiouser Road.
Yeah.
You want to do that or be Eddie Brock again? He'll probably be down to be Max again, more than he'd be Eddie.
I'm going to say, I guarantee you both are going to happen. I have a feeling.
I would hope that the Venom 2 happens just because of what we get teased with, and man, what we get teased with looks so good.
I haven't seen Fury Road yet.
Really?
But I've heard good things.
It's on Netflix now, I believe. It's worth checking out.
I'm going to check it out.
Because, in the current political climate, I don't know how you feel about the whole feminist movement in general. However, I feel there's some points to be made by them as far as socially how women should be presented. This movie is the best case scenario of how you should present women in an action movie. It's Charlize Theron, which helps a lot. But she's got a mechanical arm, and she and Tom Hardy have a pretty extensive fight sequence where she has to fight smart to beat him. And it works because of that. Because he's a big old hulking guy in these movies. So she has to fight smart to beat him, and that works really well. Which we bring up, it comes up again in this with his girlfriend, that she says, I know how to fight dirty.
I know how to fight ugly.
Ugly, yeah.
Well, I took that as ugly situations. She knows how to fight an ugly situation. Not she fights clean still, or her way of doing it is good.
Right.
So
after this scene, he's kind of accepted the situation, and the Dr. Dan and her are having dinner.
He goes to the MRI machine and totally stay consistent with sound waves.
Yep.
He gets diagnosed. I see all this. I'm now in between now and when Riot arrives at the facility and Eddie gets to the facility. I'm losing all of that transition.
Okay. What happens then
after the MRI machine?
Yeah. He goes home and he and Venom are still doing their chatting thing, and again I believe that the Dr. Dan. This is right after the swim. Dan calls her because he doesn't know how to get a hold of Eddie and says he's got some really severe things going on, and they think they need to separate him from Venom because this is where the fight with the police happens. Very cool sequence where he basically becomes the Predator in that smoke. She sees this and he comes running at her, and for some reason she doesn't just go running screaming into the night. She's willing to help Eddie, and that's when we get to the hospital, and they do separate him with the MRI that time.
I thought a lot of innocent police officers died.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that.
And well, I mean, Eddie even said we don't kill cops.
Right.
And as a movie writer, you're still ultimately you're supposed to have a bit of karma, no matter what you write. So things come full circle.
Sure.
What did these police officers do to deserve. And this is where I'm with you, at least, if they would have, made it. This is why I liked Man of Steel.
Yeah.
It's an alien invasion movie over anything else.
Right.
This should have been a Deadpool. This is what I meant to bring up a little bit ago. Deadpool even says this is a monster movie, or he says this is a horror movie or something.
Right.
He says it in the movie. And it ends up still somewhat being a love story, but it's still there's some gory stuff and grimy stuff that happens throughout the movie with a great balance of comedy. And then still some sophistication from everything, and still a good story in that. Yes, Deadpool probably could have immediately gone to Vanessa, and she would have been fine with it, causing Ron, as I quote Ron Reynolds on the Honest Trailer, causing the movie to end in like 20 minutes.
Exactly.
But we still okay. It does make sense that he still would be embarrassed.
Exactly, just because of who we know Wade Wilson as a person is, he's probably not going to do that. Just like, and why I think I'm okay with these cops dying is because, one, they're shooting live rounds.
Well, they could have done this scene instead of the car chase.
Just do this with
he kills the life minions. People, or maybe at this time Venom has taken him over, and him and Venom don't understand each other completely yet, and cops are out there just wondering what's going on, and wipes out some cops. But it was.
The reason I'm okay with it is that Eddie, first of all, mimics what the cops say of Mask, which I thought was a nice little touch of him saying, all right, I'm going to die here without you.
That was...
Yeah. And again, I like the interplay between Venom and Eddie, but the reason I'm okay with these cops dying is that Venom, at that point, is fully taken over.
Yeah.
Venom's a monster. Venom is...
And again, he has to do it on Eddie's permission.
Right. So what
I assume
in the middle of a
fight, they would have mixed without even one, and it would have took a few scenes for them to realize each other.
Yeah. The reason I'm okay with it is in the middle of a fight, Eddie's probably not in full control of himself either.
I assumed it would have been a Hulk situation.
More or less.
At least the starting of it, not to where they're so they're like two dogs looking at each other from a distance and slowly coming to each other and like, is it okay if I come out? Not yet. And is it okay if I come out?
Well, we kind of see that with before he Venoms out, where like Venom can control certain limbs and his foot through the backflip kick and all that. But Eddie has to be okay with it to totally alien out. So whenever Eddie says Mask and lets Venom up, as long as Eddie is in the moment of that fight, Venom's in control. But once the threat was done and he was getting ready to eat that cop, there's a difference between killing somebody in a fight because they're shooting live bullets at you and stopping at the end of a fight to pick a man up and bite his head off.
Well, before that, Venom shoots Eddie across a river.
Yeah.
So, again, they didn't do any web slinging of any kind.
No.
It didn't have to be direct webs. Obviously, they were having stuff shoot out of him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So they still could have had, like...
his slime.
He still could have been slime swinging.
Yeah.
He could have easily shot out of there and not killed a bunch of cops, and that would have shown...
his power.
We kill, but we don't kill innocent.
Well...
because these men were just there to do that. None of these cops, as far as storyline goes, deserved any... to be killed at their job. And this is,
we're going to get into... cops kind of know that's a possibility.
Well,
and movie cops especially.
You know who love that scene more than you?
Who's that?
San Francisco cops being killed?
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, maybe there's some dirty cops. We don't know.
So they do separate, and that's where Eddie gets captured. This is where our third act begins, or our second act.
He
ends.
just happens to walk to the elevator where the security guy, the chief of security, who's been hunting him.
Now, again, the symbiote is killing everybody it touches so far.
Yeah.
Every single one of them we have seen. They die after they have been transferred. Mm-hmm. Somehow, because I guess conveniency.
Because the script
she does not die. I assumed they were going to get out of the taxi and she would have the dog, and the dog would walk up to Eddie and transfer to Eddie, not Nat.
Okay. Here's why. The later scene explains why.
I'm not mad about it, but
yeah, it's inconsistent. A later scene explains.
I would have rather seen her with the dog, because
the dog was kind of funny for one.
Well, definitely. Dogs get killed in movies a lot, and sometimes again, like with the police officer, like you didn't have to kill the dog, like, because you see some Kick-Ass 2, they killed Jim Carrey, but they left the dog.
Yeah.
They didn't kill because even Christopher Plasmancia or
Mintz,
even he says, how evil do you think I am?
Here's my thing with that.
But I mean,
Venom tells Eddie, we need to eat something because your liver's starting to look good. That to me says, oh, the symbiotes can choose when they eat. And up to now, every other symbiote's just an ass.
Well, I would say, okay, maybe Venom has been with Eddie this long, so it itself has, I get mentally has become compassionate, but also maybe its power it's regulating its power to where it knows to just obliterate a host. So then he goes in there, and we have our fight.
Well, now we're skipping over something important here. Tom Hardy making out with the Venom symbiote.
Would that have been a she-Venom? Because there is a she-Venom, correct? Or is that...
I always assumed the symbiotes were women. All of them I always assumed were female, because Venom has a child.
Asexual, or...
Well, I mean, I guess it may be asexual reproduction, but...
Hermaphrodite?
I mean, it's a pile of ooze, ultimately, but if Venom has children and offspring, I would assume it to be female. I know that's not woke, especially, but...
I mean...
Venom never...
Women power, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, why can't the most dangerous monster in the world be a woman? God. Some would say they are.
Ariana Grande says that God is a woman, and so...
Sure, why not?
Well, I mean, that's a song. I don't know if she actually says that. I think that's more of a sexual and woken song, or like, I don't know. But
if Ariana Grande sings it, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I do like her, though.
Yeah, oh, yes. Yeah. I like her, but I respect her more than certain people at Aretha Franklin's funeral.
I don't know. I don't get the joke on this one. Go ahead. Let's just dive into this one. I don't know the joke.
I'll show.
Is it the preacher?
Well, it was a few people. It was a few men who, you know.
We'll talk about it later.
I will send you the link.
Okay.
So then they go in, and I mean,
they're trying to fight. They're stopping the rocket launch.
Oh, yeah. That was. I mean, that wasn't bad.
Nah. It is weird that it's yet another superhero movie where something is being fired up or coming down from space.
We're giving this murderer too much of a conscience.
Yeah.
But it fits, though, I guess, where they have to build this world to where they do want to make more movies. And they're trying to get kids to see these movies enough to where parents can come and see Venom and bring their kids, I guess.
I don't think kids should see this, by the way.
I don't either.
Don't take your kids to see Venom. It is rough at points. Like, the scenes with him, these people just screaming and being about, and they even killed Jenny with one. Poor Jenny Slate. I guess I came to like that character. Or maybe I just like Jenny Slate.
Yeah, both.
Yeah, but she did a really good job, and also we learned she had kids.
Well, yeah,
and then that seemed unnecessarily cruel. Like, just fire her like you did Eddie. Who's going to believe her without proof?
Let me make sure.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so we have the big final fight.
Yeah, which was a pretty good fight sequence. Riot really seems vicious, and the whole he's got stuff that you've never seen is cool, and the fight, somehow this little scrawny millionaire knocks out
Eddie I was Brock. Like, no, he wouldn't. He probably would never even
have been in a fight in his life.
Man, that was too confident of us. Well, in this world, I guess he can.
Yeah, sure. Maybe Riot gave him a boost of confidence or something.
He should have been more Mr. Glass.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not that I say that couldn't fight, but in a sense that just wouldn't fight anyway.
Right.
He could at least throw a punch, but obviously it's not going to affect Eddie Brock with or without symbiote.
Right.
But he would never. He would maybe try to kick him, or I don't know. He would never. He's not.
He's not a physical.
He's not Sylvester Stallone.
Exactly.
Out of nowhere.
Should have been Stallone playing that role. That's who it should have happened. Stallone should have played a 24-year-old millionaire tech genius.
Well, was he supposed to be 24 at that time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was thinking he was at least a little older by that time. They'd mentioned him being 24, but I thought that was just a note in his...
I think it was supposed to be our way of knowing that this man's still very young. But, so the fight sequence happens, and we get told earlier that fire can kill them. So a good little Chekhov's gun payoff there of Venom having the blade, and he says, have a nice life, jumps down, cuts open the fuel tank, and kablooey. And we hear Eddie scream, no, Venom, don't, and we think Venom's dead, but of course the movie's not called The Wonderful Eddie Brock.
That, and when he was going up the street on the motorcycle and he said something like, yay, I'm going fast, or something. He made a comment like that. Those were like...
Thanks.
Very weird and cheesy. And when did this somewhat macho action character? When would he make these comments that you would hear from a child from any movie?
When it's a PG-13 movie instead of R.
Like, what I
really think that's what it is.
When he said one of those or both, all could think of, now this is what I call pod racing.
Yeah, that's really what I think is what they're doing, is that they realize, this is a little harsh for what we want. We better go ahead and ADR in Tom Hardy saying a couple things. Because we want them to know, don't take it too seriously. It's going to be fine. Eddie's going to be okay. Your buddy Eddie's going to make it out of this. Let us worry. Like, the point of going to a movie is to experience some emotion to it. And worry and fear are great emotions to build up something to in a movie.
Suspense.
Yeah. And
thrill.
The tease that Venom might have died is like one of the worst things I've seen done, because nobody went into that thinking, Venom's sure dead. Nobody believed that.
I was assuming he would, if they're going to make the second one, somehow he would rebond with it, or maybe an end credit scene.
Yeah.
But they let us know, which I thought they did good at. They did good between him falling in the river until they revealed that he still had it.
They did a good job.
Making me think it was gone. I thought they went ahead and went with that.
Yeah.
Until.
Yeah.
So
she doesn't know we're going to get her back to us, and which again, the symbiote's funny, weird, but he's a funny character.
And that's why I get a lot of Deadpool 2 and what almost Captain Marvel looks like, where you have a superpowered being that is capable of kicking all this ass, but then makes these 13-year-old quips.
Okay,
which some of them are good,
right? A 13-year-old can be funny once in a while, but for the whole movie, it gets a little tiring.
Like biting someone's head off and then go, "Oh my gosh, did I just eat that guy's head?"
Yeah. Like if he just started if that happened, the first thing he just starts screaming is, "What?" Like he just screams that, we're frustrated. That would have been much funnier.
Well, and again, it might be the DC in me where he would go, there would be nothing said.
Because he's in shock.
He would go home and all he could think about was, I just ate
a man's head. Yeah.
I just ate someone's head. Which I dropped the F-bomb in Solo, and then I put F-bomb in there or something, yeah. Took it out.
But then he goes and he does eat the guy that's extorting the old lady, which is cool. I like that sequence because he... Actually, you know what I had a problem with? Is that long speech at the beginning of, if you come here again, if you go anywhere again doing this, I want to eat your arms, I want to eat your legs, I want to eat your face off. And you're going to just be this armless, legless thing rolling down the street like a turd in the wind. Funny. But didn't really fit the character of just... The character would have just been like, chomp.
I don't have time to even waste talking to you.
Yeah. You are so... But then also the, what are you? And then the, we are Venom. That was... They did that for the trailer, basically. That had to be a trailer moment.
And I feel like... because in the cartoon, at least... It just revealed his neck up.
Yeah, you just
dropped. That would have been better.
I think so too.
Or not do that at all. no, this half face, like,
well,
that looks like a good poster.
Yeah,
but actual, like,
as far as doing things, it's when you pay money for for Tom Hardy, you're going to show that pretty face sometimes.
Journalist, reporter Eddie Brock probably wouldn't go around showing his face while he's in mass murder, anti-hero, alien mode.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming.
And okay, so then after all this, that's the end of the movie basically. But then we get to the post-credit scene where he is built up. Oh, I got an exclusive interview. You'll have to find out about it. And he walks past Stan Lee, who knows he's Venom because Stan Lee, I think, is Uatu the Watcher. And so he goes up to this prison, and it is one
Dapper
of the
Dog Walker.
Dapper Dog Walker. Great, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So he goes up there, and we don't get a name for a long period of time. He's called Red by the prison guards, and he's...
Well, I heard Cassidy, I think.
And then, and so it turns out it's Clayton Cassidy, played by the incomparable Sir Woody Harrelson. He's not really a sir, but...
Also in Solo.
Yeah. Also in a wig in Solo.
In what?
In a wig in Solo.
Well, I mean, I don't know, I think him and Bruce Willis probably have the same hairdresser.
Yeah.
So, and have for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I'm apparently there now, so I started to join the Shaved Head Club, but it's just because I'm a Nazi. might take that joke out.
Well, if you want me to, I will.
I know, I'm fine with it. Just I don't know if you want to have people think it might be serious. But
I don't think anybody would.
So he comes in. He's turns around and delivers his lines perfectly, and is like, I want to dispense of all the psycho. I don't know if it says that exactly, but yeah, and they just says, when I get out of here, and I'm going to get out of here, it'll be carnage.
Very
calm and direct. Oh, it's just so perfect. And
we're told this is an incredible maniac, and Woody Harrelson comes off as nothing but, or at least as a very stable, or at least in control.
Yeah,
maniac.
He's dangerous. And even it's built up more, but this time telling instead of showing works, because all Eddie says is, well, the FBI is hoping that something in this can help them identify some of the bodies. Great. You don't show us anything, but all we know is that this man has mutilated multiple bodies to the point that they can't tell who they are. Good, perfect use of telling instead of showing for once, because that is letting your imagination build, and that's how horror should work, and that's what made me think horror movie for this. So maybe the sequel will be, because Carnage is a horror show.
I was assuming at first that maybe, if that's where the transformation happens, or, I guess maybe a piece of the symbiote is cut off of Eddie and grabs onto him, since we didn't see anything like, there was no interaction, physical interaction. That now maybe Eddie's going to do a piece on him, so he's going to come back, and either then that's going to happen, or there's a Carnage symbiote somewhere.
That's what I'm expecting, because we saw that they had a mini ambulance full, or not an ambulance, but a jet plane full of them, and we know that at least 2 have died. We don't know how many he had, but we know that they had a lab full of them to keep trying people with, so for all we know, the Carnage symbiote's just running around out there.
Yeah.
And, man, I'm looking forward to just seeing what Woody can do with that.
I hope, and I think, I did not like Deadpool 2 at all. Apparently a lot of people disagree with me and did like it. For me, there was... and I know the first one had a lot of it, but this one had way too many homosexual jokes. Which is fine, but I seem to be the horse had been dead for a little too long for me.
Yeah.
That they kept beating. That's the way it came to me. And also you had lesbians in there, but there was no really any lesbian jokes in there at all. And they were two very attractive lesbians, so I definitely felt let down in two different ways. But hopefully, again, comedy sequels very seldom are successful, and most hero or comic sequels in general, even if they get a sequel, are seldom as amazing. Yeah. But this Venom was good, but it had more potential.
Yeah.
Venom 2, or if they call it Carnage or whatever, has a lot of potential.
It does. And let's hopefully sometime in like 2020 we get to find out. But Woody Harrelson, honestly, it felt like the movie built to that after everything, which is weird that a movie builds to a post-credit scene.